Welcome back, everyone. Today we're diving into something pretty fascinating.
Oh, I'm excited about this one.
Yeah, we're going to be exploring Taiwan's indigenous ocean culture, um, and specifically like how it connects to the need for, you know, better marine conservation.
And I think there's no better example to illustrate that than the Tout people.
The Tao people, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes they're called the Yami people.
Yeah, you'll see both.
Yeah, you'll see both. Um, but they're indigenous to Orchid Island, which is also called Lanyu.
Right off the coast of Taiwan.
Yeah. And they have this like just beautiful tradition of crafting these canoes called tutala canoes or ute.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And those canoes, they really are the perfect way to kind of get into this whole idea.
Yeah, why is that?
Well, I mean, their history it's like completely intertwined with the ocean. Like it's not just a source of food for them. It's like it's their identity.
Yeah, it's everything to them, right?
Yeah, yeah. And the Tatalu canoe is like the ultimate symbol of that connection.
Okay. I was reading about those canoes and like they build them without any nails, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's wild.
That's incredible. Like how did they do that?
Well, they take these planks of wood and they fit them together so precisely. I mean, it just shows like such a deep understanding of the ocean and working with nature, you know.
Or like this like almost a spiritual connection to the materials and to the ocean, right?
Totally. It's not just building a boat. It's like an art form. And it's
Yeah.
also like really sustainable.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a really important point here. This way of doing things, it totally aligns with modern ideas about conservation.
So like connecting it back to something like the UN Sustainable Development Goals, right? Like
Exactly.
SDG 14.
Yeah, SDG 14, yeah.
Yeah.
Life below water.
Okay, so that's the one that's all about like how we need to be using the oceans in a way that doesn't destroy them.
Right, right. It's about conserving and using our oceans sustainable so they're, healthy for future generations. And you're saying that the Tao people, they've basically been living SDG 14 for centuries.
In a way, yeah. I mean, look at their fishing techniques. They're all about taking only what they need, not overfishing.
Makes you wonder, what kind of lessons we could learn from them,
Yeah.
right? Like the world is facing some pretty huge challenges when it comes to the ocean.
Oh, absolutely. We're talking plastic pollution, coral reefs dying off.
Oh, and overfishing. Don't forget that.
Right. It's almost overwhelming to think about.
It is. It is. And it makes you wonder, like, how are these issues impacting the Tao people themselves, like their way of life?
Yeah, it's got to be hitting them hard.
I mean, I was reading this one source that had this really powerful image.
Oh, what was it?
It was a Tatala canoe surrounded by like plastic trash in the water.
Mm-hmm.
And the caption said, "Pollution shadows tradition. Let's protect marine life."
Yeah. I mean, that's the reality. It's not just an environmental problem. It's a threat to their culture.
And another one I saw was, "Heritage floats in peril. Save our oceans from plastic." Just like really drives the point home.
Yeah, it really does. And it reminds us that, like, protecting the ocean isn't just about saving fish and coral.
It's about saving people too, like their way of life.
Exactly. But, it's not all doom and gloom. I think there's real opportunity here, too.
To learn from the Tao people.
Exactly. Like, what if we could envision a different future? One where we actually have a good relationship with the ocean.
A harmonious relationship.
Yeah. Imagine it. Clean water, tons of marine life, sustainable fishing.
And cultures like the Tao, like thriving alongside it.
That's what we should be aiming for.
That's beautiful. And I think like some of the images I saw really capture that. There was one simply captioned, "Harmony with nature."
Oh, yeah. I love that word.
It just shows this like balance between humans and the natural world.
Reminds us that we're all connected.
We're not separate, we're part of it. And there was another one that said culture and conservation. Like those two things go hand in hand.
Absolutely.
And then thriving seas, thriving culture. It's like when the ocean is healthy, the people who depend on it are healthy too.
It's all connected.
So this all sounds great, but what does it mean for our listeners? Like, how do we take this from like a nice idea to actually making a difference?
It's funny you should ask that because the solutions aren't always these big, complicated things.
Right.
It really comes down to like what we do every day.
So like the choices we make.
Exactly. Like think about plastic. Do we really need to use so much of it?
I'm trying to cut back on that for sure. Like bringing my own bags to the store, things like that.
That's great. Those little things add up,
It's just about being more mindful, right?
Yeah.
Like choosing products with less packaging.
Right. And supporting companies that are trying to be more sustainable.
And what about seafood? Like, how do we make sure we're eating fish that's, sustainable?
That's huge.
Yeah.
Look for the labels, ask questions at the fish counter. There are good resources out there to help you choose wisely.
So it's about being informed consumers.
Yeah. And don't be afraid to use your voice, Tell your friends about this stuff. Talk to your family.
Right. Like, start those conversations.
Exactly. And support the organizations that are out there doing the hard work.
The ones protecting the ocean.
Yeah. Whether it's donating, volunteering, or just spreading the word.
So, like, being an advocate for the ocean.
Exactly. And speaking of advocates, we can't forget about indigenous communities like the Tao.
They're on the front lines, right?
Yeah. And they have so much knowledge to share.
So what can we do, like, as listeners, to support them?
Well, I think the first step is just learning about them, their culture, their history.
Yeah, like their connection to the ocean.
Right. And there are organizations out there working to support their cultural preservation efforts.
Like donating to those organizations.
Exactly. Or even just learning more about their traditional practices, There's so much we can learn from them.
Yeah, like about living in harmony with nature.
And it's not just about the Tao, of course. There are indigenous communities all over the world who are fighting to protect their way of life and their environment.
And their wisdom is so valuable.
It really is.
Yeah.
This whole deep dive has really driven that home for me,
Me too.
Yeah.
Like, it's all connected. The ocean, the people, the culture.
It's this delicate balance.
And we need to protect it.
We do. So I guess as we move towards the end of our deep dive here, I want to leave our listeners with a question.
A question to ponder.
Yeah. Like, we've talked about the problems, but we've also talked about the hope, right?
Like the resilience of the Tao people.
Right. And this vision of a future where we actually get it right,
We live in harmony with the ocean.
Yeah. So the question is, what aspect of the Tao people's story really resonated with you?
And how can you apply that to your own life?
Even if you don't live anywhere near the ocean.
Yeah, like what small change can you make? What action can you take?
To be part of the solution.
It might feel like a drop in the ocean.
But every drop counts.
Yeah, and all those drops together make a wave.
That's a great way to put it. And, those waves, they can really create change.
I mean, look at something like the plastic straw ban.
Oh, yeah.
That started as, like, a grassroots movement,
People just making different choices.
And now it's law in so many places.
Just shows you what's possible.
When we act collectively.
Right. But it's not all on individuals either.
Yeah, there are organizations doing amazing work.
Scientists, activists, communities working to protect the ocean.
And they need our support, right?
Absolutely. Whether it's donating, volunteering, or just, spreading the word.
Amplifying their message.
Yeah. And then there's, the power of stories.
Oh, yeah. Stories are so important.
Like sharing the story of the Tao people.
The connection to the ocean.
It helps people understand why this matters.
It makes it real.
And it can inspire people to act.
So as we wrap up our deep dive here,
Yeah.
I think the takeaway is that the ocean,
It's precious.
it connects us all.
And it's our responsibility to protect it.
We can all be ocean stewards.
In our own way.
Making conscious choices, supporting those on the front lines, and sharing stories that inspire us.
Let's make sure the ocean is healthy.
For generations to come.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Taiwan's indigenous ocean culture and marine conservation. We hope you learned something new about the Tao people and the importance of protecting our oceans for future generations. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.